Hello everyone, welcome to my video. Today's video is gonna be kind of weird. I just finished the Arena Qualifier for one of the Pro Tours, or however you wanna call it. I did pretty badly. I went 4-3 despite playing Infinite before the event. And yeah, I just want to talk about like I played Sultai, but you know, there are many ways you can build Sultai. Even the people from like MPL and Rivals, they all play different lists. And yeah, let's just look at what I ended up playing, what was going through my head, why did I play the cards, why that I played, and stuff like that. And yeah, so I think this is the right one. Okay, so before the deck list of MPL and Rivals were posted, this is what I was playing, right? Like I was very high on the Mythic ladder. I was like I think the highest I was like 14th, but I was always in like top 100 or 200. And it was just, at that point, it was just full of like Sultai decks. There were like a lot of control decks. People were also playing like the Blood Sun deck. For people who don't know, it plays like the land that when it comes into play tapped. When it comes into play, you have to sacrifice 2 lands. But if you have a Blood Sun, you don't have to sack the lands. So it's just a control deck. It plays like Torrential Hulk, Teferi, and stuff like that. So you know, people were just trying to basically outgrind each other. And you know, Shodai Ahsoka was playing this Sultai deck on the ladder with like a bunch of Doom Whispers main and stuff like that. People were catching up about that, so like people played more Whispers. People also went for maybe playing like these Heartless Axe over like eliminates and pushes to be able to kill it. And yeah, I kind of expected the metagame to look like that at that point. Obviously I knew that there was like Gruul and Jund around, but I didn't expect it that much. So you know, before the deck lists were posted, this is where I was at. I kind of found that Casualties was really good in the mirror. It's a little bit worse game 2 because people usually tend to not slam, like the games aren't about Nissa as much, like because you just have more answers. People have like negates and stuff. And even if you don't necessarily have more answers, that they expect you to have more answers. So like less often they just like jam Nissa post board, but game 1 a lot of the time it is what the game comes down to, and Casualties of War is a great way to come back in those games. And there wasn't that many aggro, and even against like Jund, you know, Casualties is pretty good. It can kill the Oven. It's pretty good against auras and stuff, so I thought it was pretty good. I also played 2 castles. In the previous qualifier, like a month ago, I actually played 1 blue castle over the black one because I thought it was like a lot of aggro, and this is kind of bad on mana because of Uro and stuff. But in the mirror, castle is like one of your best cards, so I kind of think you have to play 2. Also, if you add like Whispers to the deck, and I also have like Languishes in the board, having extra black mana doesn't hurt. I also had 1 Narset. Narset, you know, it kind of has diminishing returns because the first one is stronger than the second one, right? Like a lot of the time you can't really afford to play it. It's not great on like all the board states, but like, you know, you want to be able to play it once per game. And also the static ability, right? If it just stays into play, the second one only tutors 2 times, but the ability doesn't matter anymore for the second one. So I think the first one gives you more value than the second one. I think 1 is fine. I also find that Tail's End is by far the best counterspell in the mirror. Maybe it's not the case anymore because of Whisper. Maybe like I still think it's the best, but you know, Whisper made it slightly worse. But being able to counter the ability from Crisis in the late game is huge, and it also, you know, counters Narset, Uro, Nissa, all the stuff that you care about. I even had a 4th one in the board. Post-board it gets even better because people have more Narsets and stuff like that. So I played 1 push because obviously it's not great in the mirror, but they do have creatures, right? They have tokens from Nissa, they have Uro, they have Crisis. And a lot of the time just being able to kill something for 1 mana once during the game is like pretty good for like a tempo swing. And obviously it's great against aggro. I just think having access to at least one is pretty good, because you can go like Uro into black land, play push and stuff like that. I didn't want to completely lose that. People are also not sure about like these sweepers, like which one you play, right? I think it's hard. Obviously against, like, for example, Jund Sacrifice, Cry of Carnarium is probably the best. It doesn't kill like the free guy, the Mayhem Devil and stuff like that, but you know, it's the cheapest one. It exiles stuff. You know, it is probably the best one. But I just didn't wanna play a card in my main deck that was just basically dead in the mirror. And Extinction Event is still pretty good because it can exile Uro. People were playing more Whisperers. Sometimes you can even like kill Whisperer and Uro with this. So I actually think this card isn't that bad in the mirror. As for split of these two, I actually played 2 Axe for like a little while. Just because, you know, of the Whisperer menace. But then I kind of found that a lot of the times you cannot kill big Graces. This also kills Narsets. So like when I was running into these blue-white control decks on the ladder, you know, the games go super long, and you know, they just play a Narset on like turn 8, and just like having an act in my hand was super painful. So I think the split was fine. As for the sideboard, a lot of people don't really like these Oozes. Because they're actually not like insane against Jund. They can kill it with Priest, they can kill it with Claim. They also have like Noxious Grasp or maybe Angrous Ramp. I don't know what's the name, like the red and black target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker or whatever. They have ways to kill it, but it's still pretty good against them. I also played a lot against that like red-black Dreadhorn Arcanist deck, and it's obviously your best card against those, but I think even through all of these reasons, I would probably play only one, but I actually found it's like really good against red-green. They usually board out Bonecrusher Giant, and it's just like a cheap card that you can play. But more importantly, a lot of the times I just lost to Clotis. Like I was able to stabilize, I even had like removal spells in my hand, but I just died to Clotis, and Ooze is like an insane answer for that, because you can always just exile the card they target, as well as being just a cheap play that gains life and can trade off and stuff. So because of those reasons I played 2. As for this Narset, I want to talk about it a little bit. I've seen some people play free, and like I think that if you're not as experienced in the mirror, you would think that, you know, you just want to max on Narsets. It just seems so good, right? Like your deck has these Graces and Uros, not to mention that you cannot like use Castle or Spiral on your turn. It seems really good, but it's not often how the games actually play out. It's obviously insane on the play on turn 3, or in general it's just really good on the play. But on a draw, it becomes sometimes pretty awkward because it's just a 3-mana sorcery card, and you don't really want to like tap out, because obviously if you play Narset and then they play Nissa and kill it, that's awful. So you often cannot really cast it in the early game, and then later you play it and they play Shark Typhoon and kill it. Obviously they can at any point kill it with Nissa. People also keep in like Eliminates and stuff. They have Tail's End. So, you know, especially on a draw, the upside is usually not worth the fact that you can get blown out. So I think I like the 2 because, you know, sometimes it's insane and you want to be able to draw it at some point during the game. Like, you know, really late in the game, it's like really good to draw Narset. Like 2 or twice, they cannot really top the Traces or anything like that. But I don't really think you want to play too many of them. No matter which deck list I play, I always have access to 4 Gusts, just because it's by far your best card against like all, well, obviously the red green deck, but there's like random mono green decks, mono red decks and stuff like that. But it's also really good against goblins, so it's just like a nice removal spell against creature decks. That's also really good against goblins. I even board all 4 against Jund. Obviously it's not insane against Jund or even like the Kroxa deck, but many times the game comes down to a point where you like get back Uro, or you like play big Krasis or Nissa, and you just need to have an answer for their claim, which is also why I'm playing this 1 negate. I don't actually usually board in negate in the mirror unless their like list is very specific. But I found like one negate is like the sweet spot. I don't think I would board in 2 against Junt, but I think having one extra answer for claim that can also maybe counter company or Oven or Totsis or whatever is pretty good. I think the one is exactly how many you want for that matchup, which is the reason why I'm not playing second one, because that would be only for control. I don't really care about control, especially with this build. You cannot really lose the control. So yeah. I had two languishes in the board. I think Languish is by far your best card against red-green. I was thinking about playing Cry of Canarium because it's just better against Junt, but I think, I don't really want to have a sweeper in my board that's not really that useful against red-green. I guess now that Martin Yuza played a 3-mana 3/2 exert guy. So when they play that, you can maybe board Cry on the play, because maybe sometimes you can kill a Pelt Collector, but overall it's just not that good against them. So I just thought it would be like a waste of a sideboard slot. I'm just basically boarding it only against Junt. I also feel Languish is better against goblins. That might not be like intuitive, but a lot of the Krenko is a 3/3. Sometimes they have like 2 chieftains. Sometimes they resolve the 6-drop, but they just not kill you. Maybe you have like an eliminate for their haste creature. They don't kill you, and then it's nice to be able to kill everything. So I actually like Languish in the board the most. And I had like some extra cards for the mirror and control stuff. Okay, so like I was ready to play this. I was feeling very confident, but then they posted the deck list. And pretty much everyone was playing Sacrifice or red-green, or at least that's like how it looked like to me. So I was like, fuck. I even playtested against Martin a bunch. We played like 2 days straight together, and he was just crushing me with his red-green deck. Against like the regular red-green deck that play like Mahamut and stuff, it was still fine. Like for example, when they have the Mammoth, it can become only a 5/5. They don't play any fetch lands, and the 6s was really good against them. It just basically brick walled them, and so sometimes you just went like Rumspell into like this, and then you had like extra gust or push, and you were able to steal some of those games. But against Martin's list, he was just basically crushing me. Like I had no chance, and I thought that he even tweeted about it. He's a known aggro player and stuff, so I thought that people are going to lean towards his deck list more, and I just got really scared. Especially for people who don't really play Historic. You can qualify for the tournament for just being top 1200 Mythic, and you can basically just play Standard or Limited to accomplish that. Maybe a lot of people don't really play Historic that much, especially now that the new set is going to come out. Besides the qualifier, there's not really that much like incentive to play Historic, and that just seemed like a great deck to just like pick up and play. Maybe you get like you just get lucky and you not draw people and stuff. And the jump deck that a lot of the pros were playing also seemed pretty good. And this setup isn't like great against them either. So I just completely shift my deck. And this is wrong. I played it like this. And this is what I submitted. I even put an Ooze in my main deck, because it's both good against Cruel and Junt, and it's fine in the mirror. Like I don't think Ooze is very very good in the mirror, even post board. Maybe I should talk about it. You would maybe think without playing the matchup ever that Ooze is good in the mirror because of Uro, but even if that best case scenario happens, you basically trade it 1 for 1, because this Ooze, like the body, that is basically irrelevant in the mirror. I guess you can like attack Narset, but besides that, it doesn't do anything. But if they don't have Uro, you just have a 2/2 that like didn't do anything at all. A lot of the people even board out like some of the Uros, especially on a draw. As I said with Narset, it's kind of like a slow sorcery card. It's bad against opposing Narsets and stuff like that. So I just think Ooze is pretty bad in the mirror, especially game 1, because you give them a target for like the pushes and stuff. but it's still like fine-ish, and it was really good against like what I thought would be the two most popular decks. So I decided to put it in the deck. I also cut all the tails ends because it's just completely useless against Junt. Yeah, you can like sacrifice like one of their triggers or whatever, but it is really bad. And it's not good against Gruul either. They do have like the questing beast. Sometimes they play like the 2 mana 2/2 haste guy that when you attack with free creatures you loot or whatever. And they have Embercleave, but it's still pretty bad. The main problem with it is that in a lot of the spots you kind of have to decide between like playing something and keeping a tails end, right? But their deck has a lot of creatures that just aren't legendary. So you just pass, and then they play like a free haste guy, and you just wasted your turn. So it's just like really awkward. It's sometimes good with Nissa, because you can play Nissa and a breeding pool and counter like the Embercleave or whatever. But you would prefer to not have it in your deck, I think. So I just put a bunch of gusts in the main. I just didn't expect, when you think about the three most played decks, it would be Sultai, Gruul, and Junt, and Gust is pretty good against all of them. It's obviously not like insane in the mirror, but it's fine. It can like, you can Gust Ura or Nissa, so I thought it was fine to not play Tails End and play more Gusts, and I even put a second push into my deck just to have more removal spells and like a second eliminate. I just basically built my deck in a way where I can go like removal, and then play like one of like these big creatures and just beat up on the creature decks. At least that's what was my thinking. But I just played against like completely random decks. I lost to blue white. I lost to like Band Control. What was my? I think I even lost to Gruul, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I just kind of should have realized that this wasn't an MPL tournament. Historic is very wild. It's obviously not as wild as modern or whatever, but people are just gonna still play their decks. I think I just gave people too much credit. Yeah, I don't really know. Yeah. The problem was that I just felt that if I built my deck in a different way, I'm just gonna have a bad matchup against Gruul, which I just didn't want to do. But I guess if you think about like your overall win percentage against the field, yeah, maybe I maximized my chances against Gruul, but I lost too many points by doing that. So maybe, yeah, let's just look at this is what I think I like kind of should have played. You still like have a chance against Gruul, I think. I have a second Gust. I didn't have it in the first version, and I have a third extinction event. I play only 2, but you're still like can fight pretty well against all the control decks and in the mirror and stuff like that. And I think overall, specifically for the qualifier, just like not the highest competition of the play, just being able to beat everything would be probably better. Also, like not everyone is following like the MPL stuff and stuff like that, so maybe their version of Gruul would be bad. Yeah, I think I just messed up. I actually decided to, for this last version, I didn't actually play with it, but this is what I think I would run if I could play the tournament again. I actually put one Shark Typhoon in main because I actually think that now that the Gruul deck plays the free to haste guy, it's not that bad against them because you can just flash it in and block it. Before this Shark Typhoon was just making like irrelevant size creature, so it was really bad against them. But now that they play the free to, Shark Typhoon is actually, not like good against them, but defensible, fine, and it's pretty good in the mirror and against the control decks as well. Similar to the Narset, the first Shark Typhoon you put into your deck is the best because in some of the spots it's just really good to just hard cast it. So, but you basically want to do it only like once per game and only sometimes. So like the second Shark Typhoon you put into your deck is slightly worse. Obviously in the matchup where it's good, it doesn't matter. It's like your best card or whatever, but I guess you get my point. And yeah, I think I should have played one Whisper as well. As I said, it's bad against the Gruul version with the free 2, but maybe some people wouldn't play the free 2, and it's still fine against Gruul, similarly to Shark Typhoon, but it's also very good in the grindy decks. And the first copy of Whisper is pretty good. Well, it's similar to the Narset and Shark Typhoon argument. It's just better than the second one, because when you play it and they kill it, you can just mill yourself a bunch, mill Uro, and it just like accomplishes what you want to do. You don't necessarily need to have a second one in your hand. You know, you will be able to find a good card to play on your next turn, probably find an Uro. So yeah, as I said earlier, I do want to have access to 1 negate, 2 guts. I still like the 1 Narset and 2 Uzis. I even put the Casualties of War in board and for this deck list. I just think it's really good in the mirror. So, as for the Shark Typhoon, a lot of people think that like Shark Typhoon is insane in the mirror, and they like play like 3 or 4, and that kind of used to be the case like a month ago. I still think it like wasn't insane or anything, but it was way better than now. The way the mirror played out like a month or 2 months ago was that people were just like kind of passing, not that much was happening, and just being able to flash something back was really good in those games. But now that people play more Whispers, not only they're more proactive, secondly, this Shark Typhoon just gets outclassed. Like the 3/3 or 2/2 or 4/4 you make with it is just like isn't that impactful. You know, when they have a Whisper, this just doesn't do anything. I still think you want to have access to like around 2, because late in the game you want to be able to hit like a strong card with Narset, and it's just really good in some spots. But I don't think you want to draw too many of them, and especially like in the early game and stuff. So I think 2 is like the sweet spot that you want to be in. This third push maybe should be an eliminate. To, you know, you if you don't have enough cards, or they just like play for Narsets or whatever, it's nice to have an access to a different answer. And against Gruul, it kind of depends. Some draws they are like super explosive, and you're like the extra mana from push is super impactful, but sometimes they're not that fast, and you know, they're just killing you with those 3/3s or 3/2s, and your push just doesn't like kill those creatures. So I'm not really sure. I'm also, none of my versions actually has Maelstrom Pulse in the deck. I should maybe talk about it as well. Maybe that's wrong, because it's like fine in like all the matchups. You know, it's just like a fine bridge card. But I just think it's really bad against Gruul, because all of their creatures just have a haste, so it's just really slow. You take like 3 or 4 damage in the process. It's not like, it's fine against Jund, because sometimes you can kill like 2 Owens and stuff. It's also fine in the mirror, but overall I just think it was like too low impact of a card, so that's why I'm not playing it. But I might be wrong. It can kill Doom Whisperer, but I actually found that when they play Whisper, you untap and you spend your entire turn killing it with Pulse, you just lose those games anyway. They just mill themselves, and they just play an Uro or a Nissa next turn and have a counter backup, and you just lose anyway. So I don't think that argument matters that much. So yeah, I think this is pretty close to what I think I would play if the tournament was today, but let's go how it goes. Oh, I didn't talk about the mana base. I'm not playing any Watery Graves. I at some point I thought that maybe Watery Grave was better than Drowned Catacomb. That was when no one was playing aggro, and I just thought that maybe sometimes being like more often being able to play Thoughtseize on turn 1 would matter more than the 2 life. But literally any time I drew it, the Catacomb would be better. Maybe I'm just results oriented, but I just, you know, that has been my experience. And now with like all the creature decks around, I definitely think that you don't want to have that many pain lands. And yeah, actually the original mana base that I copied play Hinterrod Harbor over this Woodland Cemetery, but I think now that the deck has like 3 Languishes, 2 Castles, and 2 Doom Whispers, the black land is better. You can play maybe the third Drowned Catacomb over it, but I think the extra green is pretty good with this Nissa. You can argue that like you almost always at that point have 2 green in the play, but maybe sometimes you have like 2 green, castle, swamp, and like an island or whatever. Well, basically what I'm trying to say is that even if that's the case, it's like nice to have like this extra green, because you can play the Nissa of this green, and then the land that you left behind produces two mana. So, you know, even with Nissa, this land actually matters, even though it might seem that it doesn't produce like more mana. In a lot of the scenarios it does, because you can just play Nissa with it, and then, you know, all of your other forests are 2 mana. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to make this video for me to like talk about my thoughts and, you know, decisions that led to the deck list that I played, and, you know, while doing that, might as well share it with people. So, you know, that's gonna be all for me today, and bye bye, see you next time. Oh, if you liked the video, which I assume not that many people will, but if you did, please click on the like and subscribe button. Bye bye.